Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going. 1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
Why, hello, and welcome to the Captain's Cast. I am your host, Captain Garrett of the Swords of Starships channel. Good morning. Good morning. Today, we are covering the memorial of Charlie Kirk. And every Sunday we do this. Every Sunday we have a show in which we talk about entertainment culture, nerd culture, things I like, swords and starships, things like historical action-adventure, Master and Commander, The Patriot, Gladiator. We talk about great novels like The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. We talk about video games I love, the Mass Effect trilogy, one of my favorites, Dragon Age before it turned into Veilguard. We talk about general entertainment culture. We're very intellectual and curious on this channel. We talk about why things are the way we are. We're curious people. We stand at a kind of crossroads, I think, as a civilization and as a culture, and it's really nothing unique in human history. We are descended from ancestors that lived in very harsh, terrible, tribalistic conditions in which life was difficult and survival was required, I would say, a great deal of instinct. And unfortunately, as advanced as we are as a civilization, those instincts persist in our nature. Some call it sin, if you're religious. Others call it evolutionary holdovers. But whatever the case, humans are what we are. We tend towards the tribalistic. We tend towards wanting to destroy our enemies. We tend to make the wrong choice, and we tend to solve our problems in very terrible ways. And we all have that nature within us. And I think that what motivates me, one of the reasons I became such a great fan of Star Trek, is that it posited, if you will. And I see you, chat. Thank you for being here, and I'm going to get to you very soon. Fu Man says audio is popping. I know it's because I'm using Restream. Is it bad, or is it like seriously bad? If it is, I'll start a new stream. I'll use OBS if I have to. So let me know. But in any case, what makes culture matter is what makes storytelling matter. Is that the stories we tell ourselves become our identity. They tell us where we've been and imagine where we're going. And one of the things I loved about Star Trek was that it posited a future in which we've learned to solve our differences peacefully. And what we witnessed 9 or 10 days ago was the worst parts of our nature. And so I don't want to focus only on that, though, because I have a lot of hope for humanity, and we're going to be doing the Charlie Kirk Memorial because he stood for the values I stand for. I used to have difficulty saying this. I wasn't sure if I had a place in the conservative movement, if you will, for various reasons. But I think that one of the things I learned in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, I wasn't like a super fan of Charlie Kirk. I knew of him and admired his work. And let's face it, we owe him a great deal, because if it weren't for his efforts, we might well be dealing with a President Kamala. And if I pronounced her name disrespectfully, good, because that was intentional. We could be in a really dark place. And you may say, well, shouldn't we keep the politics out of entertainment? Well, you know something? I really agree with you. That's the world I wanted to live in. I wanted to live in a world where Star Trek was about aliens and humans in the future traveling the stars. I wanted to live in a world where Star Wars was about epic adventures against evil empires and such. The Force and the Jedi and the dark side. I wanted to live in a world where Warhammer was about the grim darkness of the 401st century. But you see, there is a political movement that will never allow us rest. They will never allow us peace. And they will always seek to control our entertainment and our culture. And that is the far left, what I now call the violent left. Doesn't comprise everyone. I actually reached out to a friend of mine recently who is a liberal and has been his whole life, and I was a little nervous. I reached out to him and I just said, point blank, what are your thoughts on this? Because it threw into question. I mean, if the response I got was, oh yeah, it's awesome, it's great what happened to Charlie Kirk, if that had been the response, I'm not someone to end a friendship over politics. I'm really not. It takes a hell of a lot for me to. I have a lot of friends that disagree with me on a lot of things, and I value our friendships, and that would not be the reason to end a friendship. Politics, that is. But if I had heard celebration of political assassination, that I would have said, I wish you well. I hope that you have great prosperity in your life, but this is the end of our friendship. This is where we part ways. And that's because I will not associate with anyone who does not agree to the basic social contract of democracy. The social contract, and I'm referencing John Locke, who is one of the philosophers from which we get our concept of American democracy, Western style democracy. And the social contract is we agree to disagree. Without that contract, there's only one other contract, and let's face it, it's the most common in human civilization, and it always will be. Might makes right. That is the only alternative to the social contract of we solve things democratically and through voting. Now, I'm not naive. I'm not a Pollyanna. The world is what it is. There will always be times like this. There will always, if you want to stand up for what's right, expect the forces of violence and evil to fight back. They always will. But what occurred to me is that I now know for absolute certain that I am a conservative. And because the left has decided that they must control all storytelling, they must sanitize and edit and sensitivity read every piece of literature, every piece of video game art, every piece of comic book or film art that's produced, because they must insert their politics and all of those things. They have decided that they play for keeps. It's time for us to play for keeps. We, that is, and I'm not even speaking of conservatives, I'm speaking more broadly. I'm saying those of us who are Americanists, those of us who believe in the social contract. You don't have to be an American to be an Americanist. If you believe in the American ideals of a democratic society, a republic in which we solve things by voting and peacefully, then you are an Americanist. If you believe in freedom of speech, you are an Americanist. And you don't have to be a conservative. You can be a libertarian Americanist. You can be a liberal Americanist. But if you hate America, if you hate Britain, if you hate France, if you hate South Korea or Japan, if you hate your own democratic, civilized society, if you are afraid to fly the flag of your own country, or rather, I should say, if you're afraid, that's one thing, but if you despise the idea of flying your own flag, there's nothing really more to talk about with someone like that. Because you disagree with civilization. You disagree with our way of civilization. And so I will continue to advocate for what I believe in. Conservatism, Americanism, in art. Which is to say, all viewpoints are welcome. So let me get to the super chat. Crowbar the Skull with a $5 super chat says, "Good morning, Captain Garrett. Hello, hail, fellow crewmates. Flags at half-mast for Charlie and Irina." Yes, indeed. Thank you, Crowbar. Appreciate it. Good morning and welcome aboard. Crowbar says the audio's okay. I wanted to be able to highlight comments, which reminds me I can highlight comments. I didn't even think about it. This is the whole reason I did it this way. Here we go. Where is it? Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Crowbar the Skull. I would love a society in which we could tell stories without the propaganda, without the politics. And when I say politics, I mean that the story is crafted from the perspective that it is to act as activism, right? The story itself is meant to be activism in which a narrative is being pushed, and it's not really exploring anything. I just watched an episode of Deep Space Nine. I think it was the fourth or fifth episode of the first season, and it was about a Bajoran terrorist who, now that the Cardassians have been defeated, the alien invaders of Bajor, they've been defeated and driven off of Bajor, and the war is essentially over. You have this terrorist who can't give up the fight, and he's trying to get rid of the Federation on Deep Space Nine, and he appeals to Major Kira, who used to be part of the resistance movement, a more moderate part of the resistance movement. He appeals to her to help him and says, we need to be independent. We need to get rid of the Federation as much as the Cardassians. And he's willing to be violent to do it. And she says, look, those days are over. We got to do things a different way. And he says, you are becoming a slave. You're giving in to them. The point I'm getting at is the whole episode is about how Major Kira herself is having difficulty giving up her life as a resistance fighter who was bent on winning at all costs and doing nasty things to fight the Cardassians. But now she's faced with having to employ diplomacy and having to work with the Federation to build up an actual future for Bajor. And she's torn between her loyalty to Commander Sisko and her old life as a resistance fighter. She doesn't know what to do. And what struck me about this episode is that it's dealing with intense political issues, but it's actually exploring all sides of the argument. It's portraying all of the characters as very human and complex. Like, you can see this guy who wants to continue the fight. He, at many points, he's not portrayed as purely evil. He's portrayed as a man who doesn't know anything else. This is the only way he knows how to fight. He's addicted to it, and so he will always see an enemy before him no matter what happens. He's a hammer in search of a nail. And I find that such an interesting exploration, and that's the problem with art that becomes propaganda. It becomes pure black and white. There's nothing to explore. There's no complex moral debates. So conservatism in art, in my view, is openness in art and a willingness to explore both sides. So I welcome debate, and I welcome all viewpoints. I want to restore to art freedom and openness in the exploration and exchange of ideas. And in order for that to happen, violent leftism has to be chased out of the arts, in my opinion. How do we do that? Well, we do that by creating our own things and continuing to do what we do, which is advocate for the things we believe in. We have as much right to see our views represented in art as they do. And that is the social contract Charlie Kirk stood for, and so that's why it matters to me. So we have about 4.5 minutes before the Charlie Kirk stream starts. The chat is going crazy over there. That being said, I do have some things in the meantime that we can have some fun with. All right, let's check out the Good Boy trailer. Okay, so if you don't know, there is a horror film coming out very soon, and it is the concept behind this film. It's a classical ghost story. However, the main character is a dog, and he sees that his master is being haunted by evil entities that he can't see, but the dog has this extrasensory perception. So this is a brilliant concept, because like in The Conjuring, there's that great moment when the family's entering the house and the dog won't come in. Because, and this, I truly believe this about animals. They can sense things that we can't, because they are purely, they are still purely in a state of instinct. Whereas we have this intellectual thing going on that blinds us to what we can naturally sense. I think we suppress our natural instincts, right? So the idea of actually framing the story from the perspective of the dog that can see the supernatural, whereas the human cannot, that is such a brilliant idea. I don't know if it's going to be easy to watch this film, but I figured while we're waiting for the memorial to start, let's check out this trailer, because we do like to talk about entertainment art here. Okay, share screen, Mr. Producer. Oh, we're back in the saddle on Restream. No, I don't like that view. How about this view? No. We'll do that one. Okay, here we go. And then let me know how the sound balance is, because I'm trying to like keep the volume of my voice and the video like balanced.
Look who's here!
Oh my god. Oh no. Oh man. I am already getting chills. Supernatural, like, ghost stories are my favorite kind of story. Fuman says, I heard dog's sense of smell uses quantum tunneling. That could be possible. I know that a dog's ability to smell something is equivalent to being able to detect 2 teaspoons of bleach in an Olympic swimming pool. That is the equivalent. The parts per million they can detect is equivalent to 2 teaspoons of bleach in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It's staggering. All right, roll tape. The crazy thing is, this dog is the director's dog.
I guess I'm next. I should never have come here.
That was absolutely terrifying. Wait, no. Stop share. That was horrifying. That, I think, is going to be the hardest watch probably ever of a horror movie. Like, I watched The Conjuring with the lights off, and that was pretty terrifying. But that, I was having a physical reaction to that trailer. I was just chills all up, like not the good kind, like the freaky lizard brain, there's a predator in the room kind of chills. Like, that was so terrifying. I can't wait to see it. I really can't. Where's the there it is. Wait, no, wrong. Where's my how come my chat's not updating? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know I could do the chat overlay. I'm trying to see. Oh, my chat like disconnected on Restream. So the entire reason that I'm doing it this way is so that I can have the chat, and now the chat is disconnected. Why is it disconnected? But in any case, Fu Man Blue says the audio match is good. All right, cool. The whole movie is shot at that elevation, knee high. That's going to be a powerful approach for sure. Can't wait to see it. Yeah, I can't wait to see it, but also I don't know how easy it's going to be to handle that. Like, I have to see it. I have to see that movie. Now, the comments on the video are hilarious because they're like, if the dog gets killed, we're gonna riot. What was it? See, if the dog dies, John Wick is showing up in the sequel. The one comment says, "As a dog myself, it's great to see that we're finally getting our spotlight on the big screen." I feel like this is the most united the internet has been in a long time. Regardless of our differences, we would all die for this doggo. The dog's crying makes me cry. I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if I can handle that. It's the you know what's the fascinating element of this is it's the powerlessness of the dog. It's the powerlessness of the dog to intercede or to tell his human what's happening. And I had never really considered that from the person, as a character. Considering the dog as a character is such a unique idea because the animals in horror movies have a long tradition. There's even that short horror film, The Cat's Eye, I think. It was I hate to bring up Stephen King, but that was the name of the film. So we've got, so the Charlie Kirk Memorial is in the opening ceremony. Let's check in on that for a second. Share screen.
I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief, and I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody, yes it is. And I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. Come on, we're gonna sing. So I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. Together we declare, I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on the Charlie Kirk live stream. I've never done a live show like this before. I've never done a show where I'm just kind of like checking in with something, so it's a new experience for me. Actually, I think we're probably going to raid the D-Day Cobra stream later, so I will set that up. Crowbar the Skull says, reminds me of the ghost vids on YouTube that show a dog reacting to something unseen. Yes. I want to see those. Drop those in the Discord. I'd love to see some of those. They can see things that we can't see. There's no doubt about it. I don't think I'm getting a warning, so we'll let it play a little more. Bring up the sound, Mr. Producer. I noticed they've got the bulletproof glass.
Prosper, and when the darkness falls, it won't prevail. Because the God I serve knows only how to triumph. And oh, my God will never fail. Oh, I believe that my God will never fail. Can you declare this? 'Cause I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, there's power in the mighty name of Jesus. And every war he wages, he will win. So I'm not backing down from every
Got a video
giant. No.
I want to show you. I'm looking for it.
I know how this story is. Yes, I do. 'Cause I know how this story is. Come on, say it. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Come on, we believe we serve a God who is victorious, and he turns things around for our good, for his glory. Come on, declare this with me. 'Cause you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You believe that today? You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good.
So we'll keep an eye on that. So I'm looking for this. I found the video. The problem is it's an over an hour speech. But it's Rush Limbaugh's speech in 2009 at CPAC. And he gave this brilliant explanation. Because at the time, you had Barack Obama as the president, and essentially conservatives had lost pretty much everything and really were completely discredited in the public eye. And the mainstream media ruled pretty much the entire narrative, and it was a bad situation. And he gave a speech in which he said, what is conservatism? Who are we as people? Like, what are we? And one of the first things he said, well, the first thing you need to know about conservatives is we love people. And he expounded on that, and I may play the clip later, but what always struck me about that is it's always held true for me, is that conservatism is at its core a pro-humanity movement. I really think we've reached a point where there's sort of there's two ways that people in our civilization look at things. They look at humans either the way that Agent Smith in The Matrix looks at humans, which is that they're a plague, that they're a virus, that they exist outside of a natural order, and that they are destructive and irredeemable. And I think that's the way the violent left looks at humanity. It's why so much of the art they produce is grim and bleak and completely lacking in hope. It's why nihilism is the most common thematic element throughout fiction. You know, it's interesting. I'm working on a science fiction space opera series. There's going to be more information about that soon. And it's a novel series. And I was thinking about, like, what are some contemporary books or TV shows or films or video games that are similar to it. And in terms of video games, Mass Effect would be the most recent example, but that's been pretty much gone for a long time. Don't know if the next one's going to be any good or not. But in terms of shows, TV, there's nothing. There's nothing like it because there's plenty of science fiction that is dark and grim and dystopian, but there's almost nothing like a Star Trek or even really a Star Wars. Star Wars, Disney Star Wars is being trash is not helpful at all. So I was thinking there's really nothing analogous to what I'm trying to write. There used to be, but there isn't anymore. Science fiction is always an exercise in exploring how futile humanity is. And this way of looking at things also contains within it those who hate Western civilization, those who find it to be colonialistic, imperialistic, and evil, think it should be abolished violently if necessary. And the other side, which I would say broadly contains moderates, liberals, libertarians, conservatives, apolitical people generally fall under the banner of they love their country, they love their civilization, and they generally think humans, all things being equal, are basically good, and we're here for a reason. Those who hate humanity hate religion because religion argues that humanity is important. And maybe, and depending on the religion, not just important, but central. And there's a deep level of shame among the violent left about that idea. So when you believe that the human species, that we're just very smart animals, when you believe that we are destructive, parasitic, when you believe that a human being can be reduced to their political persuasion and therefore you have permission to destroy them, when that's how you look, when you look at life as something disposable, something that if it inconveniences you, you can simply remove it. When you look at life that way, life becomes cheap. Humans become objects. And if an object is in your way, you remove it. But we, conservatives, as Rush Limbaugh was pointing out, are the opposite. We see the inherent value in all human beings. Even the evilest person on death row in a prison is still entitled to basic humanity on some level. Doesn't mean they're not going to be punished for what they've done, but it doesn't mean that we aspire to take ghoulish delight in it. Obviously, we're all flawed. I think conservatism recognizes that all human beings, all human beings are flawed. And we make bad decisions. We give in to bad temptations. And what's interesting about the violent left is they seem to never think they do anything wrong. They seem to never doubt themselves. They seem to never question whether they're the good guys or not. Whereas conservatives question all the time. I question all the time the beliefs I hold, the opinions I espouse. I question all the time. Am I simply falling prey to a narrative? Am I simply acting out of ego? And the truth is, sometimes the answer is yes. But at the end of the day, as horrifying as what happened to Charlie Kirk is, broadly because of what it says about where we are as a civilization, I believe that humanity is important and it's valuable. And I believe that the way to heal humanity is to establish a civilization based on the kinds of values in Americanism, which is respecting the liberties of others, giving people the right to speak. My liberal civics teacher in high school was the first teacher that had ever imparted to me the idea, I may disagree with every single thing you say, but I will die to defend your right to say it. And I was so moved by that idea right from the get-go. I was like, exactly. That is the perfect description of America. That's the perfect description of our civilization. And I've lived by those beliefs because to this day, I have friends who disagree on literally everything I believe. I have friends to this day that will have a great time, but the moment it gets to politics, we're arguing all night. And interestingly enough, a couple of them have come over to see things our way, which is kind of interesting, I have to say. But because I truly do believe in sharing my civilization with people who disagree with me, that's why I'm able to have friends that disagree with me. There's an interesting thing. Why is woke art so terrible? We're going to get to that. I have a super chat to get to. So I see it. I'll be right. Fu Man Blue. Oh, it's a member message for 4 months. Says people's instinct to categorize others does scale up very well. People are good or bad based on their actions, not their party. Wrangler says a whole lot of Ola. Welcome. Wrangler, good to see you. Good to see you. Fu Man Blue is sending me the YouTube channels about animals that sense evil and ghosts and so forth. I'm going to check that out, Fu Man. I am going to check that out. I'm going to be unable to sleep. Yeah, so why is woke or just radical left, if you prefer art, cultural Marxist, as a drink with crazy likes it? Why is it so bad? Well, it's bad because it lives in a place of I am right and you are wrong. And there's no such thing as a good artist or creative who can produce great art who thinks that way. You have to naturally be an open-minded person to create great art. You have to naturally be non-judgmental on a certain level. You have to, and there's a great film called American Fiction, in which the novelist in it, someone points out to him that he's a non-judgmental person, and he says, well, why do you say that? Back that up. So he says he believes that nobody is the worst thing they've ever done, right? He thinks that this, in other words, the sum total of your personality is not the one worst thing you've ever done, which is another way of saying humans are very complex. right? And his friend points out to him that makes sense that you're a writer that you think that way. And it's probably why sometimes Hollywood wackos mean well, but they say weird things because they tend to look at people non-judgmentally. Because how can you create an interesting character if you've already decided everything that's good and bad? If a character says this, they're bad. If a character says this, they're good. I think to write complex villains, complex heroes, you have to be able to explore humanity from a place of non-judgment. Which is why conservative propagandistic art often is not very good either, to be quite honest. So my goal is always to seek truth in art, beauty in art. Let me check my Discord. Fu Man Blue says the audio is absolute trash, and it's almost as bad on the other stream's audio. It's like listening to a radio station that isn't quite tuned properly, and that's everybody? You're saying other channels too? So help me out, chat. If it's that bad, just let me know, because I can just go through OBS and I'll just restart the stream through OBS. Because I don't, if the audio is that bad, then I don't want to continue with it this way. All right, let's, well, tell me how the music sounds. I'm going to bring up the music for a minute. All right, cool. So, all right, so I will restart the stream. I'm going to get the other stream ready. We'll just keep it rolling while I work on that. I just can't get the... I wanted to be able to share chats and stuff, but then that crashed on me anyway, so it's just not going to work. This is why I have to do it through OBS. Because if I don't do it through OBS, it's just going to be this problem all the time. Is it so? You're saying that when I'm sharing the video, it's pretty bad. All right, just hang out for a minute, chat. A new stream is going to appear in about 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll be back soon. So look, it's going to be an all new